president's made it very clear that Russia's destabilizing activities, its support for rogue regimes, its activities in Ukraine are unacceptable. And the president made it very clear that very soon he will sign the sanctions.
That was Vice President Pence in Estonia yesterday, responding to Vladimir Putin after the Russian president hit back at the U.S., ordering American embassy staff in Russia be cut by 755 people. Putin is retaliating to sanctions just approved by the Senate last week in a veto-proof 98-2 vote. Tonight, the sanctions bill is at the White House. It's sitting there awaiting a presidential signature, but the president has yet to sign the bill into law, or for that matter, address the matter publicly. With us tonight to talk about this, former acting director of the CIA, John McLaughlin's with us. He's also an MSNBC national security analyst. And Nayyera Haq is with us, former senior advisor at the State Department under President Obama. John, the Senate doesn't agree on anything, as I think we just got a lesson in last week. They haven't voted 98-2. I can't remember the last time. This really is a veto-proof majority. How does this look that this document is sitting at the White House? Will there be a signing statement? Will there be a public version of our policy toward Russia?
Well, Brian, those questions underline really what's very different about this particular dust-up with the Russians. I've been through a lot of these, and this one is very strange, very different. Among other things, we've never had the Congress essentially telling the president what to do in this way, apparently a sign that they don't trust him on this issue, and maybe another sign that the Republican firewall is beginning to break a little bit. The second thing is we've never been through one of these things when we have really a weak president who seems to be kind of paralyzed by the Russia issue. And third, of course, is the absence of a policy. As best I can tell, we don't really have what I would call a Russia policy. In the past, when this sort of thing has happened, it's been in the context of a clearly understood policy, something we can go back to. Right now, I came away from my last trip to Russia asking myself, where do we want this to end? I don't think we know.
Nayyera, it is very odd to have the vice president as the acting point person, in effect, on Russia. What's your understanding of these countermeasures that Putin has ordered?
Well, Vice President Pence was in Estonia, and as we know, that's a former Soviet Union bloc country that is under threat, constant threat of Russian destabilizing activities. So you have the Russian, every time there's an administration official in Europe, they speak strongly against Russian activity, but we haven't seen that kind of same strong reaction from the president himself. Unfortunately, most of our foreign policy seems to be made on Twitter these days. Our policy against North Korea, China, all of these have been announced on Twitter. So not to hear the president say anything in support or against Russian sanctions directly, it's hard for any other surrogate to take place and fill that vacuum. Now, this isn't, in context, this isn't a direct retaliation just for this past week. This is actually several weeks back in the late Obama administration. Obama had done an executive order to kick out about 35 Russian diplomats, which we suspected were spies at the time, as well as shut down several Russian facilities. At the time, Putin said he would not retaliate because he was waiting to see what a new Trump administration would do. So the fact that now 6 months into a Trump presidency, Putin has decided to retaliate now shows that he, too, is losing confidence that he has Donald Trump in his pocket.
So, John, do you buy the premise of that front-page New York Times article today that Putin's hopes to get in good and maybe have their way with Team Trump have backfired in this way?
Yes, Brian. I think Putin has given up on Trump, given up on him in the sense of any hope that somehow Russia was going to have easy going here. And that's not a bad thing. In dealing with the Russians, it's good to show some steel. And that's what the Congress has done. It doesn't always lead to bad things, as you know. I mean, sometimes this is what you have to do to bring the Russians into a realistic understanding of where you stand. I think it has removed illusions perhaps on both sides. Trump's illusion that he could easily work out a better arrangement with Russia, and Putin's illusion that somehow Trump and his administration were going to be a cakewalk for him.
And a
thanks to
lightning
Congress.
round. Same question, answers from both of you, beginning with John. How reckless was it for the president to tweet against China over the weekend?
That's a bad thing to do. I think he seems to think you can outsource the North Korea problem, and you can't. China has a role to play, but only in concert with about 6 or 7 other things that we have to orchestrate.
Nayyera, same question.
And certainly this has now come back to the United States going to the UN, a body that Trump has not empowered, but now is looking to handle the North Korea threat because of the saber rattling that's happened over Twitter. The more that Donald Trump tweets against North Korea, the more erratic the behavior we'll see from the dictator there.
John McLaughlin, Nayyera Haq, thank you so much, both of you, for coming on tonight. Complex topics, and you helped our discussion immensely. Up next after another